All right, folks, you want to know what goes on here? I'm always losing pens. So every time I get up, I come back in with another pen. Look at this. I got 4 pens here now. I don't know which one to use. It's a conundrum, as they say. All right, we are back, and joining us right now is our friend Grace Marie Turner, president of the Galen Institute. And you know who's back, Kevin Jackson. You know him, you love him. From these 2 hours, I thank you for sticking around. Welcome to both of you. All right, we just talked to John Bolton about a lot of things. But primarily Hillary Clinton. She was at this women's forum, and she was asked by Thomas Friedman, of all people, what's your biggest accomplishment at the State Department? And I got to tell you, I've never seen her so unprepared. Maybe she thought she wouldn't be asked that because she at one point said, oh, you're good, and no wonder you win awards. So she didn't like the question. She wasn't ready for the question, and she had no answer. She basically said she's proud of the way they brought the world together and blah, blah, blah. But there was no accomplishment she could cite. Grace Marie?
It's really astonishing because she has to know that's the most important question she's going to get. And she has said before, oh, well, I traveled more than any other Secretary of State. Well, what did you accomplish? And even she doesn't have a good answer to that. Probably she's going to say later, oh, well, I accomplished so much I couldn't think of one thing. Well, you better come up with one thing. Yeah,
that would be good advice for her. What about it, Kevin?
I disagree. I think she was totally prepared. She gave the right answer. She has accomplished nothing. Right. Unless you count hanging on the coattail of a philandering husband, that's about it. She lost an election to a guy who's as worthless. Well, I don't even want to give you analogies about how worthless the current president is. Hillary Clinton has accomplished nothing. She says that the America is now, I think one of the things she alluded to was that they had brought back some ideal around the American power or something. She's got to be on the medical marijuana of Colorado to believe that, number one. And as far as what she managed to do, she plugged her book. Did you notice at the end of the segment, well, I do have my book coming out. Hillary Clinton has accomplished nothing. She had accomplished nothing when she was a carpetbagging senator. And this job was just strictly, a stepping stone for what she hopes is going to make her the first female president of the United States. But at the end of the day, Hillary Clinton has no record.
Here was the quote. I'm very proud of this. Finally she got to this. I'm very proud of the stabilization and the really solid leadership that the administration provided that I think now leads us to be able to deal with the problems like Ukraine, because we're not so worried about a massive collapse in Europe and China trying to figure out what to do with all their bond holdings and all the problems we were obsessed with. So her main thrust here, and maybe this is a hint of things to come, is that she couldn't really accomplish anything as Secretary of State because everybody was so concerned about the economic collapse back home. In other words, it was really all Bush's fault. Grace Marie?
She's delusional. I mean, there's no one who could say that the world is a more stable place. Unfortunately, she was taking her marching orders from this president, the White House. All of the cabinet officers are taking their marching orders from the White House and even the Oval Office. And that shows the lack of leadership from the very top, and the fact that she didn't do anything to say, we really need to take on this part of the world, we need to take on this issue, accomplish something meaningful, shows her own lack of leadership.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to show. Go ahead, Kevin. You're good.
Well, one quick thing about that. In the clip, she talks about, essentially, she says, Obama took domestic issues, I took international issues. Well, let's look at international issues. We had Arab Spring. We had the snafu with Russia that's led to Ukraine. Name me a part of the world that Hillary Clinton tackled, to use Grace Marie's terminology, and show me the result for America. We are not held in any higher esteem. We're not the world leader. Our credit ratings are lower. We lead the world now I wouldn't say the world, but we certainly, watching our credit rating drop off and our economy, GDP drop and things like this, none of it's worked. Obama domestically, it didn't work. And Hillary has been an abject embarrassment to the United States abroad.
And
So
you have to look at Benghazi too. I mean, that really did happen on her watch, where we had an ambassador in a compound that was not safe. The State Department was alerted. That happened because of her, and the cover-up actually came out of the State Department. So if she has a legacy, Benghazi, I think, is really representative of that.
Yeah, and what I love is she explained how, well, when I accepted the position, the president said, you handle the world affairs and I'll handle the economy. Well, excuse me, isn't that the way it is with the Secretary of State all the time?
Yeah, she was making sure that everybody knew the points of clarification. But to Grace Marie's point, what are you going to point at? Arab Spring was a disaster.
No, absolutely. She has nothing.
Yeah,
and Benghazi is hanging out there. Ukraine reset with Russia. That's all out there. That's all her. As an extension of Obama, and she's going to have a lot of explaining to do. Although I don't know how much the media will hold her to it. Now, let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about Obamacare. And this must be another lie, another made out of whole cloth fabrication. Once Harry Reid gets a hold of it, I'm sure he'll classify it as such. 1,800 children in the state of New Jersey lost their health coverage this last week. Obamacare's new mandated requirements killed New Jersey's low-cost children's insurance coverage plan known as the Family Care Advantage. And it was offered by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. It was designed for kids whose parents make too much money for Medicaid but are middle class anyway and really can't afford it. It offered dental, medical, vision coverage for just $144 a month. But because these parents and these little children were too stupid to know that they had a subpar plan, here came Obamacare to the rescue and took that plan away from them. Isn't that wonderful, Grace Marie?
And it's so representative, Steve, of what's happened to millions of people around the country who had coverage they liked, whether it's privately owned or whether it's a public state program, that was canceled because it did not meet the unbelievably high threshold of all the benefits that have to be covered under Obamacare. Plan canceled. I don't care if you like the plan, it's not good enough for Obama, even if it's good enough for you and your child. And now they're going to either be without coverage or they may be shoved into the exchanges where they're going to have much narrower networks, much less likely to have the access to the pediatrician they've been seeing now. A lose-lose-lose situation for everybody.
Yeah. What about it, Kevin?
Well, I would say let's take a look into it, get Eric Holder to look at it. But I'm sure that because these kids weren't on Medicaid, these were probably little white kids that lost their coverage. So nobody's going to care. Now, being serious, look, Obamacare is a disaster. I don't know how you can put skates on this pig on ice and make it skate any better. The only thing I can tell you is either we have to make it a class battle or a racial battle of some sorts, because this is going to stay intrinsic to our system. I learned just recently, Steve, that they fraudulently put about 2 million people on the system. They sent out letters saying you're part of the system in order to get to this magic 7 million figure. Yeah,
well, that magic 7 million figure, which was touted by Bob Schieffer and all the rest of the anchors on the Sunday shows, and oh wow, you reached your goal. I mean, it's just so sickening to watch. But here's one way they reached that magical number, even though you and I and Grace Marie know that they really didn't have 7.1 million signed up. The Obama administration apparently is signing up inmates. Many states are now signing up inmates under Obamacare to shift the burden from the state to the federal government, and the states are also working to enroll prisoners once they get out. Once they get out of, as they're leaving prison, it's kind of like a PR campaign to get them enrolled in Obamacare. It's insane.
Talk about captive audience, right?
Captive audience, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe they can get the new Hep C medication that only costs $90,000 over for the treatment and get that on Obamacare, because a lot of the prisoners seem to have that as one of their ailments coming out of prison. Look, it's a disaster, and it's only going to get worse unless we can figure out how to get rid of it.
Grace Marie, final word, 10 seconds.
Really is shocking to me how much disruption they are willing to tolerate, how much they are able and willing to put on the backs of the taxpayers. So the president, the insurance salesman in chief, could make his numbers. It's disgusting.
Yep. Grace Marie Turner and Kevin Jackson, thank you for being on the panel. We'll see you next time. When we come back, Wayne Besson will be here. Truth wins out. Watch this. You're not going to want to miss it.